Assalamu alaikum everybody. Here's Ahmad Naser with a new tutorial about ADO.NET. We want to continue our previous tutorials about C Sharp Professional. And this tutorial we're going to talk about ADO.NET, which is the ActiveX Data Object.NET. ADO.NET just a disconnected data access technology. It just based on XML, and it just by its component give us a communication between rational and non-rational database. And in 90s we have something called COM, which is a component object model. After that we have the ADO, and we have CLR. And CLR is just basically common runtime language, or common language runtime, and it's mainly responsible for converting the all the languages, including C Sharp, Visual Basic, F Sharp. All these languages are converted to one language called CLI, which is Common Intermediate Language, and this common intermediate language converted to machine language using the CLR. So the CLR is just a virtual machine of the .NET framework, which is responsible for converting the CLI into the machine language. So it has a lot of function, like manage and execute the .NET programs, exception handling, garbage collection, and thread management. And ADO.NET is as an ActiveX Data Object.NET. It's included in the .NET framework version 4, and also in the Visual Studio libraries. So, and there's a big difference between the ADO.NET and the ADO, previous ADO, because the ADO.NET is almost completely different from the ADO. It changed entirely, because it was changed and considered as a new product. So there's a lot of changes between those two, the .NET version and the older version. So for the ADO, as we said before, it's just a disconnected data access technology based on XML, and to provide a connection between relational and non-relational database by using its components. We have some key elements in the ADO.NET. Mainly we have three key elements, or three component of the ADO.NET, which are dataset, and data provider, and the application layer, which is the user interface component, like grid view, a list view, all examples of the UI components. So mainly we want to talk about, let me just move to the diagram here. We have this diagram, we have other diagram here. So mainly, let me choose a red color. We have a data provider. This is the ADO.NET architecture, and we have a data provider here, and we have a data set. So mainly we have a data set, and we have data providers. So data provider are the two key elements, or key component of the ADO.NET. And of course we have the database here, and we have Windows Forms, as you can see here, web forms, and other stuff here. So basically it consists of the data set and the data provider. So data provider are connected, consist of connection, data adapter, command, and data reader. and also with SQL with database provider. So we have a lot of database providers, you know. We have SQL Server, OLEDB, and ODBC, MySQL, or those are called the data provider. And also, it's included in the data provider the following components: the data adapter, the command, data reader, and connection are all part of the, you know, the data providers. After data provider, we have the data set, as you can see here. We have this data set, and let's take an example of data provider. We have this application, MySQL, managed .NET provider. You can see it has a MySQL connection, it has a command, it has a data reader, it has adapter, it has a parameter, it has transaction, and all these kind of stuff are connected to the database. So here in this figure, we can see the following. We have a presentation layer, application layer here. You know, we talk about data set, we talk about data view, and we talk about Windows Forms and web forms. And data set is just an XML file, and data set is connected to the data adapter, and data adapter is connected with consists of command and connection, and data adapter connect with the database. And when data adapter connected with the database, it get the data and put the data, fill the data inside the data set, or it can directly from the adapter we can from the connection we can put the data from the command in the data reader. So we gotta explain that, but basically when we introduce the ADO.NET, which is a complete paradigm shift, which has a great role in entire application architectures. And ADO.NET reduces the need for the connection and lock-in with data source. So we have some differences between ADO and ADO.NET. The basic difference that we can talk about is in ADO we have it's also a disconnected record set, but it's called the record sets in ADO. But here in ADO.NET we have something called the data sets. So instead of record sets in ADO we have data sets, and we have previously in ADO we have something called data shaping, but in ADO.NET we don't have data shaping. So we talk about XML files here. And what is an XML file? XML file is a way to transfer data from the data source to the client. Okay. So first thing, XML is just for cross-platform integration, and ADO.NET is just based on XML. So what happened in ADO.NET, we introduce a new object like a data set, as we can see here. We can see here the data set, the command, the connection, and the data adapter. So, and data reader. Okay, and on here we can, data view we have here. So those are called are new objects added to the ADO.NET. Okay. So when we go to the data set, here, you can know that data set is a disconnected XML, contain data, and this data is stored in your local machine. And this data is, as we said in the previous tutorial, we see that there's a lot of tables. A data set is a collection of tables, and it gives you access to the rows and the columns inside the tables. So I mean, by access, you can delete, you can update, you can insert, you can edit, you can do all that stuff using the dataset. And it's a replacement of record sets. As I mentioned before, we have ADO, and we have ADO.NET, which is a replacement of the record set. And it's not also, there's other stuff that included in the dataset, which is constraints like foreign keys, primary keys for the data tables. And also the dataset, works with other data storage models or models like flat, relational, hierarchical. So, a lot of people familiar with ADO.NET because of that. So this is the first element of ADO.NET, which is dataset. And we have we have a command here. And command is just basically allow us to access and return data and send and retrieve parameters, information. And also command let us use something called the store procedure, which is a stored query in the database. And finally, as I said, it's a query. A command is a query, and just a query. It contains an SQL statement and parameters, and could be executed. And you can execute a command using 4 types of execution for the command, which are the execute reader. This is used for stored procedure, and the execute XML reader. This is other kind of execution methods, which is used for XML reading, writing. And the most used one is the execute non-query. And this command we execute the query, such as SQL or stored procedure, and we return the number of affected rows. When we're using the execute non-query, we return the number of affected rows, and it has a property. If you want to test if there's rows, you can choose a property of this command, which is the records affected. You can return the number of records affected. And finally, we have the execute scalar, and this is just return data type, return type like objects and something. So this is for statistical information data. If you want to execute a query that retrieve statistical data, you just want to use the execute scalar command. And command has a lot of types. We talk about methods. It has a lot of types. We have SQL command, we have OLDB command, we have MySQL command, we have ODBC command. So the most used one here in our case is SQL command, because we deal with SQL server. Okay, and the execution result of the command can be stored in 2 ways. One way is to store the result in the data reader. Other way is to store the data, the data which is from the data adapter, and fill that data in the dataset. So we have 2 ways. Okay. And the last, not the least, is the but not the least is the data adapter. Data adapter is consists of 2 stuff: the commands and the connection. So if we want to move down a little bit, we can see here dataset and how is data. If we want to explain this more, we have a dataset, and data adapter fill the dataset, and the data adapter get the connection, and from the connection connect with the data source. Okay, and data adapter can contain commands. Okay, and the result of execution, the command can be stored in the data reader or can be stored in data adapter, and this data adapter fill the dataset. Okay. Uh, okay, this is a basic architecture for the whole process. We have a grid view here, and the grid view just bind the data binding. Okay, you just get the data inside the, we have interface here, user interface. You get the data inside the user interface from the data set, and data set get its data from the data adapter, and data adapter fill the data set. And as we see in the previous tutorial, we have a data set, we have a table, collection of table. So this is table 0, table 1, table 3, and so forth. And as you see here, relational collection. And because we talk about tables, we talk about rows, we talk about columns, we talk about constraint, we talk about views. So it's an XML file, has all the functionalities of normal SQL database management. You know, it's an offline model. So we have a data adapter in the middle, and data adapter go to the database, go to the SQL command, and from SQL command we go to the database, and you know, and we have a lot of data adapters here. We have select command, insert, update, and delete command. But mainly we have two functions of data adapter are fill and update. So when you use data adapter to fill, you put the data set, and the other are called update. And when we talk about update, we talk about the REST operation like insert, delete, and update. So we have just two main methods for the data adapter are fill and update. Fill for the select, and update for insert, and update and delete. So okay, this is basic. What are the methods of of the data adapter? Okay, so this is give you an example of the data provider. I will talk about SQL command, and a command can contain parameters. So the parameters are used for avoiding the SQL injection. So we're gonna see that in the next tutorial. We have a SQL connection here. We have a SQL transaction. So we're gonna implement transaction. We're gonna implement parameters and use the parameter inside the command. Okay. Okay. So if you want to move a little bit down, we have other illustration. The ADO. We have a data grid and data set here, and we have a .NET library. We have talk about SQL Server, Oracle, ODBC. Those are called data data providers. So for SQL Server, we have SQL command, we have SQL data adapter, we have SQL command, we have SQL connection, and for ODBC the same. We have ODBC command, ODBC connection, and so forth. For MySQL, we have MySQL command and MySQL connection, and so forth. So we just, all these are, the main aim, the main goal here is just to reach the database. So we have many commands. As I mentioned, we have execute reader command. This is for stored procedure, execute XML reader. But the most one is execute non-query command. And those commands categorized according to the input and the output. So when you give it an SQL statement, you will get a query, and this query will we will execute a query according to execute non-query command. But if you want to get an XML files or the XML data, you just put execute reader. Or you can use execute XML reader to get an XML data. But and the finally command is just an SQL query. So all the data, because we want to talk about data set. So and data set here, is just basically data set just basically an XML file. So all these data, either if you work online or offline, those data are stored in an XML file on your local machine. Okay. Um, okay. Okay. Just want to note that uh, for the data adapter, can be seated in the runtime by using something called the command builder, but that is not recommended because in design time it gives you better performance. So when you design that in the runtime, the execution will be slow, and that is not recommended. And other note for the execute scalar command, uh, which returns statistical data, for example, um, and return an object. For example, if you want to do statistics with a query, um, it return you something, and you want to cast that into a specified object like integer or float, or you want to use execute scalar. And there's other command for the comment for the type of the command. We know that we have SQL command, OLEDB command, ODBC, MySQL command. But for the OLEDB command, this command is not executed. There's no XML command for execution this command, OLDB. So I mean, okay, we use SQL command. We define an SQL command. We say SQL command equal new SQL command. Okay, we can see that we have, for example, cmd the execute reader, cmd the execute XML reader, cmd the execute non-query, cmd the execute scalar, but we don't have an XML command, an execute XML reader for the OLDB command. So I don't know why. Okay, this is the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoy it. I know it's a little bit, has a lot of stuff, but I don't know. I tried to summarize all the stuff to you. And basically, ADO.NET, before I go, ADO.NET stored in a library in the C# called system.data.dll. This is the main component, the main library for ADO.NET. So that's why all the time you need to using the system, you put system.data. So because you want to get all the data set in the data adapter and the all that kind of stuff. So all the time you need to use system.data to use ADO.NET library in your system, in your application. And there's other ADO.NET technology. We don't talk about dataset. We have entity framework. We have a link to SQL. There's a lot of ADO.NET technologies, and but basically we want to talk about ADO.NET as C# developer from the perspective of dataset and data adapter and the connection and the command. And because in the next tutorial we want to do an implementation on that, and we want to build a manual connection to the database using the command and execute that command, and using data adapter to fill the data set by executing the command. So anyway guys, thank you for watching. Here's Ahmad Naser from Stereo 07 at YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next tutorial.